Part 1.
In this video lesson, you will learn about the anatomy of the human head. You will discover the proportions of the skull, as well as its major bones and muscles. This information is important for every proficient portrait artist.
Let's begin with the proportions of the skull. I will do a quick sketch of a skull to show its proportions in a frontal view. The vertical line here is the main axis of symmetry. I will mark the top and bottom edges of the skull. Using the pencil as a measuring tool, we divide the height of the skull in half. The top half is subdivided into 3 equal parts. Once again, I'm using the pencil to double-check this proportion. The lower edge of the cheekbones is located 1/3 of the way from the lower edge of the skull, 2 marks in our drawing. The eye socket is not round. It has a characteristic trapezoidal shape, which is tilted diagonally. The top border of the nasal cavity lies exactly in the middle of the skull, right on the top point of the smaller circle. The bottom edge of the nasal cavity aligns with the bottom point of the larger circle, 1/3 of the way up from the bottom edge of the skull. Now, let's do another sketch of a skull, this time analyzing its proportions and profile. We will keep the skull at the same height so that this drawing will have the same proportions as the previous one. I'm measuring the height and the width by pencil to make sure they are the same. This results in a square. A cross-section of the square's diagonals gives it geometrical center. The ear hole is located just below this center point. The virtual line that runs from the brow bridge to the ear hole separates the bones of the cranium from the facial bones. The temple line is an important mark for a portrait artist. It separates the vertical planes of the temples from the top planes of the skull. Now we have to talk about the bones of the skull. In total, there are 29 bones in the human skull. Teeth are not counted here as skull bones. The cranium consists of 8 bones, and the facial section of the skull contains another 21 bones, including the small bones of the inner ear. However, not all these bones influence the appearance of the human head. Therefore, we will only examine the major bones that you, as a fine artist, have to be aware of.